These are Korean style deviled eggs. The secret to this recipe is the gochujang sautee that we start with. So what you want to do is take one chopped shallot and sautee it in 3 tablespoons of sesame oil. And after the onions or the shallots get lightly golden, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of gochujang paste. That's what gives it a smoky, savory flavor. You're also going to have your hard-boiled eggs prepped and the yolks set aside. And then grab some kimchi and roughly chop this into bite-sized pieces because you're going to want to put those on top of your deviled eggs. So right here we're going to remove the kimchi and cut it into some bite-sized chunks. Now I like to get my kimchi from a local grocery store here in Lexington that makes and jars their own kimchi. It is so delicious. So if you have an Asian market near you, try and see if they have any homemade kimchi. And here I'm just saving you from watching me chop. Most of the ingredients I had prepared ahead of time for this video so that you wouldn't have to sit and watch me chop. I usually take a fork and just mash up the yolks into a powdery like substance to incorporate it more easily. And I feel like it gets in there and does a better job. So once you've got those prepared, you're going to then add your gochujang, shallot, sesame oil paste that you sauteed earlier. I always add just a tiny bit of salt and a tiny bit of black pepper to give a little bit more dimension to the deviled eggs. You can certainly add much more than what I'm doing here if your taste requires that. Everybody's different. Now, I like to add the gochujang paste before I add the mayonnaise because the gochujang paste is a little bit harder to incorporate because it has a sticky consistency even after you cook it with the oil. And so it really takes a little bit of time to make sure that it is evenly distributed throughout the egg yolk. So you'll see me here just incorporating that paste into the egg yolk and it's easy to use the fork to really work the paste into the egg yolk. The tines on the fork make sure that it's well mashed out. So it really works out well to use a fork for all this mixing. Now I'm going to add the kewpie mayo, and I'll tell you, everybody is so different about how much mayonnaise they like in their egg salad or deviled eggs or tuna salad. Some people like things really wet, other people don't. They like it more on the dry side. So I always say add a teaspoon at a time until you get the desired consistency that you want to see in your deviled eggs or in your tuna salad or in your egg salad. You can always add more, but you can't take it out. If you put too much and it comes out too liquidy, and then you don't like it. There's no way to reduce the liquid amount once you put it in your mixture. So at this point, I think I decided it needed a little bit more of the mayonnaise, and so I added a little bit more. But everybody's different on that too. Yes, I licked the fork. I couldn't prevent myself. But I didn't stick the fork back in anything after that. I just used a spoon, because when I load the deviled eggs up into the whites, I always use the spoon to do that. But this is a new recipe of mine that everybody is fighting over. And I cannot keep these made in the refrigerator. It's like I go and I make them, and then I turn around and there's the empty container in the sink. And I'm like, where did they all go? So once you make these, and the people around you, if they like spicy food and they like Korean food, these are not going to last in your refrigerator. So right here, I'm chopping up a little bit of fresh cilantro to go down in the mixture. Really, I just take like a tablespoon pinch right there and just throw it in there and fold it in. Now the rest of the cilantro I'm going to use as a topping after we load the eggs and put that bite of kimchi right on the top. Man, these are so good. And kimchi, is really good for you, especially right now during this pandemic. I remember back when we had the SARS epidemic, and they were suggesting that people ate kimchi because there was something in it that worked against the virus back then. So it's a super probiotic, and that really helps your immune system too. So right here, I'm just loading up the mixture, placing a bite of kimchi on the top, bam, boom. And when I get them in the container, that's when I'm going to just put a mild sprinkling of the cilantro on top, so that everybody can have just a tiny fresh bite on top of that as they get their deviled eggs. And these are just so delicious. There's no need to serve them with anything else. Although, it just occurred to me and crossed my mind that fried chicken would be freaking awesome with these. These are great to take on picnics. Just make sure you keep them cool. And it's a great thing to take if you're invited to someone's house. And especially if you know that they like spicy food, like if you know that they go to a Korean restaurant and you know that they like a lot of spice and things that are different, this is a super thing to take to surprise them. And the way that these deviled egg recipes came about, because I'm going to publish another one, it's Bengali deviled eggs that I created, and that one's going to come next. But we were sitting at home during the pandemic, and, I had bought a bunch of eggs that were on sale, and my husband was going to work, and I said, do you want me to take some of those eggs and make my usual deviled eggs? And he said, no. He said, get crazy, go wild, just do something interesting and different. And so I did, and this is what it came out to be: Korean style deviled eggs. Spicy, savory, salty, smoky. After you saute that gochujang, things really turn out smoky, flavored in this. And it put a new dimension on there that I hadn't even thought about, because I tasted the gochujang just plain before I sauteed it. And then I tasted the mixture after I sauteed it. And after I sauteed it in that sesame oil, it took on a real nutty, smoky, salty flavor. And that just puts this recipe over the top. Now, you could add just a tiny bit of sugar or vinegar to the gochujang to bring out a different dimension if you wanted to. And that's something that I've kind of thought about doing in the future is to put a different twist to it. But I'm almost afraid to mess with this recipe because everybody is just going crazy over it. So, you know how people say quit while you're ahead? Well, maybe I should listen to that. But this was a fun project and turned out really well during this pandemic. And I can't wait to get my kids here after the isolation is over and have them try this out and see what they think. They love Korean food, and I'm excited to see the look on their faces after they try this, because it really is fabulous. You guys have got to really give it a try. If you enjoyed this recipe and you enjoy the videos, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and share the posts with your friends and family that you think might like this. Hit the bell icon, and I will see you next time.